Today about countries that have lower birth rates than you expect. So every country has a birth rate per expected woman. The birth rates around the world are declining. But everybody hears of, Europe having low birth rates, Japan's crisis, China. But there are countries with lower birth rates than you expect. So here is the map of the world. So we're going over some of these countries that have lower birth rates than you would expect. So the first country on the list is South Korea. So everybody's talking about Japan. Oh my God, Japan. But South Korea has the lowest birth rate in the entire world. But people are now starting to talk about that. But then what about the place above it, Puerto Rico? Yeah, Puerto Rico has the lowest birth rate in the world of any area outside of South Korea, which had a 0.9 birth rate. Puerto Rico, of course, is a U.S. territory, but some people think that Puerto Rico does have a similar birth rate to America. But Puerto Rico has a lower birth rate than all of the U.S. states. Nobody really wants to live there, judging based off the population decline. Another place that has a lower birth rate than expected is Brazil. Did you know that Brazil has a lower birth rate than France? But Brazil is usually portrayed as a poor, not no one wants to be there in Brazil, But Brazil has a lower birth rate than New Zealand, Iceland, and yes, France. France has one of the highest birth rates in Europe, and actually has been going up. Another place with a lower birth rate than you expect is Bangladesh. Bangladesh's birth rate is only 2, and that is due to birth control efforts in the nation. Another place but a lot of people say, but Africa has some of the highest birth rates in the world. But one of the lowest birth rates in Africa is Kenya. It actually has a lower birth rate than Pakistan, Tonga, Kiribati, and Papua New Guinea, and the Palestinian territories, Iraq, and Yemen. So Kenya at least is doing better than those guys. But it's still pretty high compared to the rest of the world. Another place that has a lower birth rate than you expect would be India. A lot of people say, oh yeah, people in India have too many kids. Well, India's birth rate is actually only 2.2. Mexico is another one. Even the media portrays, watch people in Mexico, but lots of Mexicans have lots of kids. But Mexico's birth rate is just average. Just 2.1. And it will probably drop below 2.1 very soon. Soon in the relatively future. It is actually the same thing of several other countries. Colombia only has a birth rate of 1.8. That's shockingly low compared to, of course, how the media portrays, Colombia here. But then there's one more place that has a lower birth rate than people expect is the United Arab Emirates. It might soon have a lower birth rate than Japan, which means it will be the lowest birth rate besides, of course, in the Middle. Which United Arab Emirates has the lowest birth rate in the entire Middle East. But again, most of the people who live in the Middle East are just migrant workers, anyways. Probably among the actual Emirati population is around 2.2 or something. Because most of the people who live in the United Arab Emirates are migrant workers, anyways. The same thing can be said about Qatar, which is at 1.8. Nepal also has a lower birth rate than people expect. Its birth rate is actually far lower than people expect Nepal's birth rate to be, considering how the media, of course, again portrays Nepal. So Nepal has a lower birth rate than people expect. And there's lots of other cases we can go over too. For example, Algeria and Morocco having drastically different birth rates as well. Afghanistan used to have one of the highest birth rates in the world, but has dropped to 28 on the list. So, and there's not really many countries over 5 births per woman anymore. There's only 10. Niger, Somalia, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Mali, Chad, Angola, Burundi, Nigeria, the Gambia, and Burkina Faso. So that's basically it. Goodbye.